Society, welcome back to the Antisocial Planet, and today we are checking out Tower of God anime, Season 1, Episode 1. I'm very excited for this. For those who are possibly new to my channel, I have been reading the webtoon of this, so I do have an idea of what the story is going to be. I know it's going to be happening because at this point of me filming, I am well within the Hell Train arc going through the webtoon. I know I still have a lot to catch up on, but I've already know what's going to be happening in like the broad strokes of this story, so you can go and binge those videos if you would like to see my first ever reaction to the plot and stuff. But I'm excited to be checking out the anime. I want to see what they're going to do with it. I don't know a whole lot about the production team for this one other than it's a Crunchyroll original, so fill me in on any of those details if that is something that I should be knowing about. Really, all I've seen is a few screenshots, so I have a little bit of an idea of the aesthetic that they're going for, and I think I know the opener because it's Stray Kids. But other than that, I'm just excited to see what they're going to do with the source material, to see some of it in action and get to relive the story a little bit. It's always fun to get to go back to the beginning and have the perspective of someone who already knows some of the story. So that being said, if you are not someone who is reading the webtoon, I cannot promise that I will not talk about stuff that's going to happen later in the story. So please keep spoilers to a minimum for me. Like I said, I'm in the Hell Train arc, so anything that happens after that, please don't put any of that in the comments. But if you are someone who is not caught up on the story, can't promise that I won't be talking about stuff that happens later in the webtoon, so keep that in mind. But with that, let's get into the episode. In 3, 2, 1, go. I'm like stupidly excited about this. Okay. The water makes me nervous. Yeah. Ooh. That's my boy. Like, is that our girl? There she is. With all the shoes, because of course she does. I love the roll call. I know this was like in the webtoon, but there's my boy! I remember this being a lot. I kind of love that, of like all this kind of really dramatic stuff happening and they just like welcome to the tower. Like the brutality is right there up front. Also, if I roll my eyes at any point because Rachel is mentioned, it's involuntary at this point. I can't help it. Okay. I love the line work so far. Like, it almost feels incomplete. Like, it has this, like, sketchy, like, clearly drawn feel to it, which I think is really interesting aesthetically. Interesting color work in the opener too. I do love the image of like Bomb almost like disappearing, like symbolically given his character arc. Almost some like crucifixion imagery there, which is also interesting given, you know, the deification that happens. Also obscuring of his eyes through a lot of this opener too, which I've talked about like at length in my webtoon reactions about like the use of like when we can and cannot see Bomb's eyes and like the way that his eyes are drawn. The symbolism of that. Like always following, always running after her. Interesting with the ribbon too, like the red string of fate. Oof. The use of light so far and like color is excellent. So it begins. I do like the title card there because that's very much like the webtoon as well. Their entire part, like panels that they're taking, which I always love. You have source material, use it. You know. I love all the like hazy smoke and light in it too. Like it's very stylized, which is nice. Which is taken also from the webtoon, but like I like that they're making sure that that's still part of like the aesthetic of it. I don't know. I have more questions than answers at this point. The more we get into the story, the more I'm like, why? Oh, so many tests. Really interesting musical score as well. Like a mixing of genres. Has almost like a ambient sound to it. Also, can we talk about the cyclical nature of the story? About how the first test is him having to go up against like an aquatic creature in like this water substance? How that's gonna become a thing later. There she is. Oof, love the half light, half dark there. Oh yeah. You won't understand yet. Is it though? Given in light of other events, it may just have been fate. Is that so? Looks can be deceiving. Poor Evan. Hmm. I mean, I'm just so used to the tower not being fair at this point that I'm just like, sure. Don't be creepy. Nope. I mean, we're just breaking all the rules immediately, aren't we? Ooh. I love the transition of like the shadow over his face and then off again. Like literally like darkness of like his past or his previous experiences. He won't. But you'll look, it's complicated. I feel like nothing quite goes the way that Bomb plans. He's like, this is what will happen. And I'm like, that's definitely not what's gonna happen. Hmm. I do think that for all of like Yiri saying, oh, he doesn't look like much, he looks weak or whatever, I think she can sense that there's more to him, right? Like she's capable of being able to read someone who has the kind of power that Bomb does. And for all of her being like, there's no way that what I'm looking at makes sense with what I can sense of what I'm feeling. And her being like, obviously I have to see, right? Like I have to see for myself if he actually if what I'm sensing, the kind of power he has, actually links up with who he is, right? Weirdly, this is actually the right path. True. Just because you know that that's what you're supposed to do doesn't mean that everyone's like, sure, let's just be eaten. Love that silhouette shot too. Always plans within plans. I mean, really, like the first instance of like saying you can't just trust what's being told to you, even though Mom is the kind of person who wants to trust people at face value, at least at this point. There's definitely a lesson here of like, just because you're told this is how things are supposed to work doesn't mean that that's how they work. Symbolism. But I also think it's very symbolic that he's saying like break over and over again when there are close-ups of him, and I'm like, ooh, foreshadowing. Foreshadowing to say like something's gonna break in relation to Bum and his fixation on Rachel. I don't know, I think that's what makes him interesting, not boring. Don't be weird. I don't know, everyone's so weird in like at the beginning of this. Everyone calms down a bit later on. Except Dorsey, but I don't think she has a calm bone in her body. Shifty. Things are about to get interesting in general. Ugh. Ooh, that shot. Dang. I feel like that's an understatement. There's a lot coming up. I'm like, my boy's coming. Just waiting for him to barge into the scene. Like immediately, he's like, "Can I eat it?" I feel like every time a character showing up, oh, we're just like excited. I remember them. I'm just like remembering all these characters and like early on. The fact that this begins with like first test, battle royale. Only half of you get to continue. Figure it out. Yeah, don't lose that. I feel like maybe if you weren't swinging a giant weapon at him, saying stop might be more effective. Yeah, you left yourself wide open. Can't be doing that. Run! Ooh. I forgot how just like gruesome this was right off the bat. Like they did not pull punches at the beginning. There's my boy! I love how Kin just sounds bored. Dramatic. I like how Rock just like didn't even try to kill him. He just like get out of my way. Yup. Those are your turtles. Ugh. So ominous. Which warranted. Yup. Surrounded. he's lucky that they were like intrigued by him, because Bum would have been like out of the count so fast if it weren't for people taking interest in him and wanting to protect him. Like, all right, I'm not gonna wait for any previews or anything because I know what's gonna happen. Definitely a lot of fun to go back to the beginning of this series and see a bunch of characters and stuff early on in the story, and old character designs and what it was like early on in the series. There's a certain nostalgia for that. Just getting excited to see characters showing up. The voice acting so far is something that I really like. I like that the voice actor for Bum sounds very innocent and childlike and bewildered by everything happening, and I'll be very interested to see how that'll progress as the series goes on. If they will stick with the same voice actor, I don't know if that'll happen because I know that production stuff has switched around going into season 2. I don't know if they'll just change it for the sound, wanting to have a voice actor that can offer something that works a little bit better for Bum's character later on. I like that the voice actor for Kyun just sounds bored, unimpressed, which just fits with his character. I find the music really interesting, the soundtrack that's happening. We've had lots of almost like analog, more traditional instruments, and then mixing with more digital synth and bass kind of stuff. Interesting to see how they're going to mix a bunch of the background music, and I'll be interested to see how they play into that, especially going into some of the more action heavy parts of the story. And I think I just forgot how much early season Rachel is gonna bug me. She bugs me now in the story that I'm just like, every time she does something, I'm like, I have a glare like right there. I'm just like, ugh, the whole time, because I'm just like, I know who you, I know what you did, I know what you are. You haven't done it yet, but I'm mad about it. So just so many things that remembering about this series and early on and the introduction of it. I'd be really interested to see people who got into the story through the anime, what it was like to be introduced. I know for me, going through the webtoon, I remember feeling a lot of things and being confused, trying to pull apart all these different world things, because there's so much world building in this series, which is why I love it. But there's so much that they just dunk you in, right? Like they just place you in and they're like, all right, we're gonna give you some exposition of what's going on, but not a whole lot, because the only person there to inquire about exposition is Bum, and he's one laser focused on what he needs to do. The rest is peripheral for him and he doesn't care. And no one he interacts with at the beginning has any incentive to explain stuff to him. You're really just thrown in and expected to find your footing, which I think really mimics what Bum is going through, right? The fact that he also has to do the same thing. He just has to roll with it and hope for the best. So I wonder what it's like for people going into this, not having the context of going through the webtoon and like all of the like I've read hundreds of chapters at this point that I have some idea what's going on, but there are still moments where new things get introduced that throw me for a little bit and I have to try to retroactively figure stuff out. So I'm very excited to get to relive the story and see it in a different medium. Love the design so far, very much pulling from the webtoon, but I love that it has this very clearly hand-drawn feeling to it, much less polished feeling to it, as opposed to a lot of modern anime right now that have a very like clean line work and like shading and stuff. Like this very much has the feeling of a webtoon that has been like copy pasted into the animation. Obviously a little bit of a different style. I think that they're modeling a lot of the characters now to like later kind of feeling, because I know that the webtoon goes through a progression of art styles as you draw a few 100 chapters of anything and you're going to get a lot better at polishing your particular style, and especially drawing the same characters over and over again, you're going to get better at what exactly fine-tuning exactly what you want that character to look like and that style. I feel like they're pulling from later stuff in terms of the design and the aesthetic of it, but definitely like it so far. I know that people have their own feelings about it. I've seen people flip-flop back and forth about how they feel about this particular adaptation, but hey, one episode in, I'm having a good time. So I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. You can click this playlist to go and see my reactions to the webtoon, or you can subscribe so you miss next time I post a Tower of God reaction, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.